Have you ever wondered how the balance of global power can shift without a single shot being fired? Picture this: a network of ports stretching across continents, redefining trade and diplomacy in ways most of us are blissfully unaware of. Why is China orchestrating a global ports network for the BRICS economic bloc? Why this shift is happening under our noses? And what concerns do military officials in the United States and Europe have about China's growing network of ports? This is not just a story about shipping, it's about the future of global influence. For decades, the United States has held the mantle of the world's preeminent military power, investing a staggering $877 billion in defense spending in 2023, as reported by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Yet, while the US has fixated on military might, China has been quietly redefining what constitutes global power. This raises a pressing question. Has America's military focus blinded it to the subtle, yet profound shifts occurring in the world today? John Eikenberry, a political scientist at Princeton University, states in Foreign Affairs, "The challenge for the US is not merely to maintain military superiority, but to engage in a world where economic and diplomatic influences are equally, if not more, powerful." China understands that in the 21st century, the ability to shape trade and economic policies can outweigh traditional military might. As we enter a new era of international relations, it's crucial to understand that power dynamics are shifting. Economic, diplomatic, and cultural influences are now at the forefront. Control over trade routes, supply chains, and technological innovation has become the new form of power. Stephen Kaplan, a noted economist at George Washington University, argues that the future of global power is more about economic interdependence than military alliances. This assertion is echoed in the Harvard Business Review, which highlights that China's investments in emerging markets are not just economic. They represent a strategic reorientation of global influence. If you are enjoying our content, please hit the like button. To help us even more, please leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Your engagement helps us grow. Thank you. Let's rewind to 2013. This year marked the launch of China's Belt and Road Initiative, with the Maritime Silk Road serving as a crucial component. This ambitious project aims to enhance maritime trade routes that connect Asia, Africa, and Europe. In just a decade, this initiative has transformed global trade patterns and economic landscapes. According to statistics from McKinsey, trade volumes along these routes have increased by over 50% since the initiative began. A report from The Economist reveals that the Belt and Road Initiative has linked over 140 countries, representing 2/3 of the world's population. In 2022 alone, China invested nearly $87 billion in infrastructure projects across participating countries, reshaping trade dynamics and allowing it to gain unprecedented influence over global trade. Stephen Roach, a senior fellow at Yale University, says, "China's Maritime Silk Road is one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects in history, fundamentally altering global trade routes in a remarkably short time." A common narrative in Western media suggests that China's investments in global ports are primarily aimed at establishing military footholds. However, this perspective misses the point. The true essence of these investments lies in their economic implications. Nearly 90% of global trade occurs via maritime routes. Jonathan Hillman, director of the Reconnecting Asia project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, points out that the primary goal of China's port investments is to facilitate trade, not to establish military bases. He notes in his book, The Emperor's New Road, that control over maritime logistics translates directly into economic leverage. This economic strategy is what underpins China's rise in global influence. The statistics tell a compelling story. The port of Shanghai, for instance, is the busiest port in the world, handling over 47 million TEUs annually. In fact, as per Lloyd's list, 7 out of the top 10 busiest ports globally are located in China. But this dominance extends well beyond its own borders. China's investments in foreign ports now exceed $100 billion, allowing it to exert influence over strategic maritime routes. This network positions China not merely as a participant in global trade, but as a dominant player, controlling the flow of goods across continents. Jikun Zhu, a political economist, states, China's port strategy is redefining what it means to be a global maritime power. They're not just in the business of shipping, they're establishing a new global trading order. Now, let's look at the specific impacts of these investments. Countries like Brazil have seen a surge in Chinese agricultural investments, leading to significant shifts in global food production. According to Bloomberg, Chinese investments in Brazilian agriculture reached nearly $17 billion over the last decade, directly contributing to Brazil's emergence as a leading global supplier of soybeans. In fact, in 2022, Brazil surpassed the United States as the top exporter of soybeans to China, a development that has profound implications for American farmers. The Wall Street Journal reports that U.S. soybean exports to China have decreased by nearly 30% since 2018, as Brazilian farmers expand production to meet Chinese demand. Agricultural economist Dan Kowalski from CoBank explains, Chinese investments in Brazil are reshaping global agricultural markets. U.S. farmers are feeling the repercussions of this shift, as they lose a significant portion of their market share. In a significant shift, 2023 marked the first year that China's exports to Belt and Road countries exceeded its combined exports to the U.S., EU, and Japan. According to data from the New York Times, these countries now represent 40% of China's total exports, up from just 30% a decade ago. This shift indicates a realignment of global trade networks. China is prioritizing its new alliances, signaling a departure from traditional Western power dynamics, and creating a new economic bloc that could redefine global influence. Economist Martin Jacques, author of When China Rules the World. China's pivot towards Belt and Road countries is a clear indication that the center of economic power is shifting away from the West. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed just how vulnerable the global supply chain is, particularly with respect to U.S. reliance on China. A report from the Rand Corporation indicates that 70% of the rare earth materials critical to U.S. defense systems come from China. This dependency poses a significant risk. Defense expert Michael Pillsbury, author of The 100-Year Marathon, warns that if China were to cut off these critical supplies, the impact on U.S. military readiness could be catastrophic. As China expands its network of ports through the Belt and Road Initiative, military analysts in the United States and Europe express deep concerns about the strategic implications. Many of these ports, labeled dual-use facilities, can support both commercial and military operations. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, China's military access to these ports enables enhanced naval logistics and power projection, particularly in critical maritime regions like the South China Sea, which the U.S. Navy identifies as a significant area of geopolitical tension. In fact, military assessments indicate that China aims to establish a string of pearls around the Indian Ocean, positioning itself to control vital shipping lanes. The implications extend to global supply chain vulnerabilities, as analysts warn that China's control over strategic ports could threaten the flow of goods essential to Western economies. The Council on Foreign Relations highlights that such control allows China to exert economic pressure, potentially coercing nations dependent on these trade routes to align with its policies. A recent report by the Brookings Institution underscores that in the event of a military conflict, China could use its port network to restrict access for U.S. and allied forces, significantly impacting logistics and operational capabilities. Furthermore, experts highlight the broader shift in global power dynamics resulting from China's port investments. According to Dr. David Shambaugh, a prominent China scholar, the BRI represents a fundamental shift in global governance, positioning China as a central player in the global economic order. The potential for espionage and cyber threats looms large, as these ports could facilitate intelligence operations against rival nations, according to a 2021 RAND Corporation report. As the U.S. and its allies confront these challenges, strategic responses, such as enhancing military readiness and forging stronger alliances, are crucial to counterbalance China's growing influence. The strategic significance of these ports cannot be overstated. The World Bank estimates that Belt and Road ports could handle over 50% of global maritime trade by 2030. They are not merely infrastructure projects. They represent a backbone for China's economic dominance. As the renowned political economist Kevin Rudd stated, China's investments in Belt and Road ports are long-term strategies that will cement its economic power for decades to come. The implications for global trade and economics are profound, as China positions itself at the center of a new trading system. For smaller nations, China's Belt and Road Initiative is often viewed as a lifeline. Countries like Sri Lanka and Kenya are receiving much-needed investments in infrastructure, creating jobs and boosting local economies. According to a Brookings Institution report, these nations see Chinese investment not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth. Harsha De Silva, a prominent Sri Lankan economist, states, China's investments provide what the West has often failed to deliver: long-term infrastructure and economic stability. This redefinition of hard power reflects an economic reality that many developing nations are eager to embrace. But with great power comes great responsibility and significant risks. China's dominance over global logistics could create vulnerabilities for rival nations. A recent article in Foreign Policy emphasizes that this control could restrict access for other nations during diplomatic or military disputes. Admiral James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, remarked in an interview with The Washington Post, China's control of global logistics presents a security challenge that no military buildup can easily counter. The implications of this control extend beyond economics. They pose significant geopolitical risks. China's emergence as a global economic powerhouse is arguably one of the most significant shifts since the Industrial Revolution. It's no longer just about military might or territorial expansion. It's about reshaping the global economic landscape through strategic investments and trade networks. Stephen Roach summarizes this sentiment well. In the 21st century, economic interdependence is the new normal, and countries that recognize this will shape the future of global power dynamics. China isn't just building ports. They're building the future of global power. And whether we like it or not, the world is changing. The only question left is, will anyone notice in time to change course? We hope you are enjoying this video. We're thrilled to have you with us today. If our content struck a chord or sparked some inspiration, go ahead and smash that like button and hit subscribe to join our awesome community. Please share this video to help us grow. Your support is super valuable. Check out another video from our channel, which is now on the screen.